such a time as this.
And welcome back to For Such a Time as This Roundtable Edition. I have in studio the permanent fixture to the roundtable, Professor Abigail Ruth, who wrote an article in the state of Illinois that caught fire. And this is not the first time that opponents of the truth wanted to harm Professor Abby. So welcome tonight, Professor Abby. That's not true. I'm just saying.
Okay.
And spirit.
Yes,
I don't know of any
with
threats. I don't know any physical threats, but I know the other side. But I know they're pretty upset. So we're going to go over the article that's been up on our Facebook page. If you can, like us on the Facebook page. And I actually did a video on this. But we're going to go over the article, and I want to put meat on the bones of the article and have Abigail give us more insight into this article she wrote. Okay, before we actually get into the article, Abigail, please explain the scene in the room when the local school district, actually passed this policy allowing the boys to go into girls. What was the scene like? Paint a visual picture for our listeners.
Well, I'm trying to remember. It was a big room. Was it the cafeteria or the gymnasium? I'm thinking it was the cafeteria. But anyway, there were a few hundred people there. I've seen a few more. Yeah. But at this last vote, because this was the last of 4 meetings. Yeah. Where they were accepting public comment, and public was allowed to weigh in on this, whether or not to change this policy. So there were probably maybe 200 or 300 people there, mm-hmm. and usually, there was a center aisle, and on one side, all the people in favor of changing the policy to allow boys in the girls' restrooms, locker rooms, on the sports teams, that the pro-LGBT people were all on one side, and then there's a parents group called Parents for Privacy, who are all on the other side for the most part, and they were all wearing red because their message is, look, we love all kids. We aren't.
That's not what they say.
Of course not, because their definition of love is not biblical. But because we care about all kids, we care about the transgender kids, we care about the kids who have no mental problems. Okay, that was probably not a very nice thing to say, but that is the truth.
Well, we're going to get to that in the article because you did say that. But were there pitchforks? Were there torches?
No, actually,
were there knives and guns?
Were pretty well behaved, I'd say. The school board's sitting at the front, and of course, they're usually poker faced, no matter who says what. Yeah. Once in a while, they'll call somebody out, and actually, a couple people did get escorted out who are against the policy did get escorted out by the police after the school board rendered their decision to allow this, and people were angry. So 2 or 3 people got escorted from the room by the police.
Okay, so let's get into the article now. Before we do that, just give some insight to whereas I think most sane people know the difference between boys and girls and know the reasoning behind keeping the bathrooms, locker rooms, and all other things separate. What was the reasoning behind the other side to push this policy to where boys can now go into girls' locker rooms, bathrooms, sports teams? What's the others, to the best of your ability, because I still can't wrap my mind around it, what is the other side's rationale behind this bill, in your estimation, if you can?
Well, the other side actually claims to believe that these kids really are like a boy who thinks he's a girl really is a girl. They've split human beings into 2 pieces, basically.
2 pieces?
Gender, there's physicality and gender.
Okay.
And they're saying that the only thing and gender is one's perception of oneself. It's completely subjective. Physicality counts as nothing. So if you've got male, if you're a male and you think you're a female, you are a female. That is the claim. In every way that counts, that you really are female.
So, which leads to the first quote here. You led into this, and I'll read from your article. Quote, first and foremost, it must be understood that supporters of the purported rights of trans-identifying students do not claim that we must affirm such students' erroneous perception of themselves as the opposite sex. No, and read this part carefully. These people claim that a male student who perceives himself to be a girl actually is a girl. Chromosomes and genitalia count for nothing. Why is that such a problem, Professor?
That's
Abigail?
A problem on so many levels, from so many angles.
Well,
Pastor
explain
James.
explain that to someone on the other side who pretend they are honestly dialoguing with you, because I get this all the time from other people who say, well, how are we to interact with these people? So let's do some role playing here. Professor Abigail, why is this such a big deal to you? If I want to be a girl with male genitalia, why is that a problem?
Okay, so I guess I have to turn this around. I'm going to say that we should always be kind.
Sure.
I mean,
Christians should always be kind.
Yes, we should always be polite, always be kind, be civil.
Mm-hmm.
I understand that these people are in pain, but I would have to ask that person, why should I pretend that you are the opposite sex?
Because I'm the opposite gender.
But he would say, well,
I'm
you're not, I
gender.
really am the
Correct.
opposite sex.
So why is that a problem?
Because not only, okay, I think it's a problem for you, because if you try to live in contradiction to reality, you're going to have problems all along the way. If everyone on earth pretends that you are what you think you are, you're still going to have problems. But the question is, why does the whole world have to reorient itself around your perception of yourself? Do we all have to suspend reality just because you can't face it?
But again, plain advocate, my reality is I am a girl, as you stated in the.
And that's that's not my reality.
But it's mine.
Okay, so if look,
Why
God
is that a
bless
problem?
you. If you want to go try to live as the opposite sex, I don't recommend it. I would try to dissuade you.
But you're not saying God bless me because I want to go in that locker room.
Well, no. When you start making demands of other people, now we've got a real problem.
Yes.
And if the government can come in and force everyone to pretend that males are females and females are males, there is nothing they can't do to us. Mm-hmm. There is no lie they cannot force us to affirm.
And the government is actually in the process of doing such thing. Let me go on to the next question. And let me say this. Yes.
Okay, it's interesting. What they're asking for is that everyone come around them and support them in this pretense. That's not the right word. In this fiction.
Delusion?
Yeah, in this delusion. They are demanding that everyone support their delusion.
Yes.
What right do they have to make that demand?
Well, because they don't see it as delusion. See, and here's why I find this, and some may say I'm very harsh in this, but this is why I find this dialogue with the other side almost, how can I say, a waste of time. Mm-hmm. If you do not understand that your God-given plumbing, your God-given body determines what sex is, if you don't understand that God created them male and female, if you don't understand that, I no longer think it's a problem of the head.
Right.
It's a problem of the
will.
heart and the will. And if you can will yourself to believe that you are the opposite sex, you have long left the reservation of reason.
Right.
Long time ago. And it's very difficult, and I think, and we'll get into, well, I want to save this for later on.
And
you're
demanding that everyone else prop up your delusion.
But they, again, we keep using the word delusion. They don't see it as delusion.
Because they've invented this whole idea of gender. Gender was invented in order to justify this.
Sure.
It's an invented concept. We are male or we are female. We accept that or we don't.
But they also say male and female is an invented.
They're say gender is not binary. Correct. Is what they'll say too. Everything's on a spectrum. Fluid. But this is all completely invented out of whole cloth in order to justify getting what they want.
Yeah, and we're gonna harp on that, particularly how should people of faith interact with this community. But I want to go into this next part that will get you some more head-turning looks. In your article, quote, "Do I dare point out the obvious? A mentally healthy person doesn't commit suicide because other people refuse to pretend that he or she is something they are not, especially something as obvious and foundational as male or female." Close quote. Explain yourself, Professor Abigail.
Well, again, I think you have to explain why what I believe matters to you. If you're going to make... You understand what I'm saying?
I understand.
Why do they care?
Because it's in society,
what everyone thinks.
People are defined by society. And here's one of the things I've learned. If you're not defined by God himself, something will define you. And in their case, society defines you. That's why it's so difficult for them to accept criticism from the likes of you, from the likes of me.
Well, and
that's why they desperately need the affirmation.
They've got nothing else.
Exactly. So they need
so they
society.
Need people to lie to them.
They need society. They need society. And let me say this: a mentally healthy person does not commit suicide or have suicidal inclinations. I would agree with you whether the person is transgender or whether the person is straight and sit in a building on Sunday morning. Right? It's not just regulated to the trans community. Even those who claim to be Christian, if you are struggling with suicidal ideation, please don't believe Greg Laurie and his ilk saying it's something that is just innate in you that you can't control. That is patently false and it's a patent lie. Here's what I believe real quickly is that the emotions are the true gauge of the heart. What's truly in your heart will come out in your feelings / your emotions. And I think it's God-given. Your emotions are God-given, that when your lips lie to you, your heart never will. And if you're struggling with depression or anxiety, there's something critically wrong with your thinking and your relationship with God, i.e. resting in his sovereignty and his promises. And so I think that covers suicidal thoughts overall, but particularly when it comes to the trans community. It is because they are actively living a lie, or trying to live a lie, that those emotions become more profound, more pronounced. And that's why they struggle with suicide on a much higher level than the normal person.
Well, and let me say this. I've read, I'm no expert. I completely admit it. But I have read a number of things, like first-person testimonies that will say, I was struggling with mental health issues. And then I heard about transgenderism, basically, and I decided, and I thought to myself, well, maybe this is the problem. Maybe I'm really, a woman trapped in a man's body, yes. So some people end up chasing after this, thinking this is a solution to their problems too, when they have other issues, basically, and and there's all kinds of evidence that this comes out of abuse, it comes out of trauma, and there is autogynephilia, which is a whole other subject, which is adult men who get a sexual charge from dressing as women. That
I mean,
that's
the
a whole.
transvestites, is that what you call them?
Yes.
The drag people.
Yes.
Uh-oh.
And that's a whole other thing. But here we were talking about kids. In somebody who's mentally healthy, someone who is confident in what they believe, they know what they believe, they know why they believe it, they're happy it being allowed to do what they want to do. Why on earth would they commit suicide because there are a few holdouts who still think that you are what you are?
Yeah. Yeah.
It makes no sense.
Yeah. It makes no sense. And let me say this, just for the record.
And there are only a few holdouts, Pastor James, because
What do you
most
mean?
everyone just caves into this.
Including the President of the United States
Yes.
of America, for those of you who
Unfortunately.
did not know. Again, I think the conscience, the God-given conscience, is played out in a lot of our emotions, a lot of our feelings. And I've noticed something in all of my years in dealing with this, not only in a secular setting, in a psychiatric unit. I was a psychiatric counselor for about 10 years, and then dealing with it in the church setting, that when your feelings are screaming at you, stop. It takes the form of depression and anxiety. And if you push past those feelings, you are in big trouble. So when dealing with this, before I go further, I have to ask, because I've heard this over and over and over again. Prof Abby, what you're saying, if I am a transgender person, what you are saying hurts me. Do you care that your words are hurting me? Please stop hurting me.
Okay.
Saying that I am a gender, which I know I am the opposite of. How do Christians handle that, or how should Christians handle that? You're hurting me. Stop telling me
Okay, so
I'm a male
I
just
think
because I have male genitalia.
Did I say anything hurtful?
Yes, you keep calling me a man just because I got
No,
a male.
I am not. Okay, you know what? If I were one-on-one with somebody in a personal situation, I am not going to go out of my way to refer to, to use the correct pronoun, which actually reflects
You don't
their
have
biology.
to. They'll say, I'm a woman. Just because I have male genitalia, I am a woman. Are you going to deny that? You have to say yes.
Well, yes, if you absolutely,
And then if they
100%.
say, that hurts me, please stop it.
And why does that hurt you?
Because you're calling me something I am not.
Okay, so if I'm wrong, why do you care?
Because it hurts me.
But why should it hurt you? You don't even know me. You understand what I'm saying?
but-
I don't care. As a Christian, we aren't the most popular people on in this country
we're gonna be
these
hunted
days.
soon. We're going to be hunted real soon.
But I am so sure that we have the truth, Pastor James, and we have a God who is going to be there for us.
Of course.
I don't care what they think.
I know, but see, they don't have that. And I think going down your line of reasoning is to get them to see, if you will not be defined by truth, if you will not be defined by God himself, then you will be defined by something else. That's why it hurts so much. Because that person is not rooted in truth. They're
Right.
simply not.
They need everyone else to prop this up.
Yes, because they think that's going to bring them some sort of wholeness and peace, which
Right.
it doesn't. Here's the last part. We're running along. Here's the last thing. And here's how you end. This is the last paragraph of your article. You say this, quote, "The famous quote attributed to George Orwell seems to have been written for our day. During times of universal deceit, telling the truth becomes a revolutionary act. Are we prepared to be revolutionaries?" Now, who are the we?
Well, I was speaking to Christians.
Christians, okay.
Yes.
And are we Christians prepared to be revolutionaries? What does that mean, and how does that look in your mind?
I think it's going to mean being, how do I say this? Being looked at as being mean, being looked at as being rotten people, being looked at as being the stick in the mud, the people who won't cooperate, being looked at as being morally reprehensible.
And who's doing that on a national level at this day right now? Can you point to anyone? Because I can't.
Well, there are some Are you talking about Christians?
Of course, Christians. Who else? Who else going to do it?
Well, there are a few. I mean, I don't think John MacArthur has caved into this. I don't think
he hasn't.
Erwin Lutzer hasn't caved into it. There
You're
are
correct.
a few.
You're correct.
But with Chick-fil-A's recent defection, I
Yep.
lost my taste for chicken sandwiches.
Yeah, at least from Chick-fil-A.
But yeah, we're going to be out of step, and it's not going to be. It's white is black, black is white, right is wrong. Everything is going to be backwards and upside down, and even though we're speaking the truth, and even when we're doing what's right, it's not going to be portrayed that way.
No.
And so, we're going to be cast as the people who are impeding progress, the revolutionaries, the people who.
Of course.
And are we ready for that? Really? Am I ready for that? I mean, I ask myself that all the time. No, the answer is no.
You don't think so?
I mean, I know what needs to be done, and God give me the strength to do it.
Mm-hmm. What needs to be done? Let me ask that.
We have to stand by the truth, regardless, and it's going to cost us economically. It's going to cost us going to supposedly the right schools. It's going to cost us careers. The American dream, I think, is what it's going to end up costing us.
If you are a Christian or even a believer in God, and I put that, some people think they are, and I don't think they are, but if you claim to respect deity at all, why would you ever want to go to an Ivy League school?
Ivy Leagues, I don't think are any worse, honestly, than any of the others at this
Ivy
point.
League. Why would you want to go to a secular school? I question that. Engineers, yes. Doctors, something in the technical sciences, yes. But these humanity degrees, worthless.
Well, they're worthless.
Absolutely worthless. Why would you want to do that? So here's what I would say, and then I'll come back to you. That if someone is coming face to face with a transgender person, you speak the truth. When they say you're hurting me, the right tact and very calmly, not loud, not with a harsh tone, and say that I'm not hurting you. The truth is hurting you. And the only way that could happen is if the Holy Spirit is using my words to convict you in the heart. That's what's hurting you. It's the truth. Now, here's what's going to hurt you even worse down the road. Lies. Lies are going to enchain your heart and your mind, and you will forever struggle with this, whether it's emotionally or mentally. You will never be happy as long as you are living in direct contradiction of those most basic truths, and that is who you are in the first place. And so I would leave it at that, recognizing that some people push past those feelings and they get what's called a reprobate mind in Romans 1. But once you get to that point, there's no turning back. I mean, there's absolutely no turning back.
And it appears that we have a lot of people who aren't transgender who also have reprobate minds.
Yes.
I mean, with the support this has gotten. And one thing I thought was interesting that I heard several people, when they got up to speak from the other side, they would say things like, they'd turn to us and they'd say anything like, do you know a transgender person?
Yeah.
This is just based in ignorance and fear. And I'm like, no, it isn't. We know what you are. We know what you are claiming.
Yeah.
We just reject it because you're wrong.
Yes.
And you are hurting people.
You know, one of the things I've found out with people who are just completely self-centered, to disagree with them means you don't understand them. Okay? You're ignorant. Because if you understood my point of view, then you would agree. Because it's obvious I'm right and you're wrong.
Oh, man.
And that's not only just in the transgender community. It's with people who are given over to pride and self-centeredness. Which, if you are advocating for transgender, you are a part of that community. With that said, any last thoughts, last words with this wonderful, I don't know how much it's up to now. I need to go back on the website and see how many people looked at it. But
yeah, it didn't get that much traction. But Pastor James, God's people are people of the truth.
Yes.
God help us to be those people.
Yes. And to our listening audience, do we know why Jesus was actually crucified? What was the charge in which he went to the cross and died. The actual cross, according to Pontius Pilate, was nailed up on the cross in 3 different languages. Son of God. He died for telling the truth.
Yeah.
He spoke the truth, which the Jews rejected and hated. And when Pilate puts up the charge, the Jews got incensed and angry. Says he's not. Take it down. In which Pontius Pilate's words
they said,
were written.
Say that he claimed to
Yes,
be.
said he claimed to be
the king of the Jews.
Yes, because he said it. And Pontius Pilate's famous words, "What I've written, I've written." Jesus actually was convicted. He died on the cross for telling the truth. And I do believe Christians, for such a time as this, where there is no such thing as a witness, we are called. We are called to be persecuted for telling the truth.
What is a witness?
Yes.
A witness is someone who testifies to the truth.
Testifies to the truth. Thank you. Again, excellent article, Professor
Thank you, Pastor
Abigail.
James.
If you haven't read it in its totality, go to our Facebook page. It's up there. And remember, I do believe, and I think it's clear, we're all headed to a point where each and every one of us will have a point in our lives, seems like soon, to where we will have to be a witness for the truth. Thank you, and God bless. Thank you, Abby.
Oh, you're welcome. Good night.
Such a time as this.